Everyone, my name's Christian Smedberg, and you're joining us from Wine and Culture USA here in Mooresville, North Carolina. Today, I got some special guests on, Eric Kelland and Rob Williamson from Nederman. We're going to be talking all things dust collection today. Hopefully, you'll be able to pick up some tips about dust collection, some information that maybe you didn't know. We got the experts at the desk today. We're also going to talk about the onboarding process. That's going to be later in the interview, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, so welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Great to be here, Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eric, first of all, give us a rundown. Who is Nederman?
Sure. So Nederman is a global filtration and environmental company. And what does that mean? That means we provide dust extraction, filtration, and collection systems. Mainly, we're going to be talking about the wood industry. We do play in a couple different fields, but we're going to concentrate on the wood. So when I say global, we are headquartered in Helsingborg, Sweden. We have offices all over the world. Our North American headquarters is right here in Charlotte.
In Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
I love it. All right.
So we have kind of what we call a campus.
Okay.
So we have 4 or 5 buildings, offices, and we have a manufacturing and assembly plant. So kind of what we try to do is provide an entire system for dust collection, starting with kind of at the machine and working all the way back to the collector and everything in between.
Right. Now, I've been to the campus down
in
Charlotte, and it's quite impressive. Now, if people are interested, they can get you guys to give them a tour down there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we host people. We have tours. They can actually see the collectors being built. We have a showroom. We can kind of do any kind of educational seminars, kind of like you guys do here.
Right.
So it's open. So anytime anybody wants to come down, we'd love to have them.
Yeah, it's an impressive. It's a great facility down there. So now, Rob, so you've been in the industry for a bit of time.
I have.
How long have you been with Nederman? What's your background?
I've been with Nederman for 27 years.
Is that right?
Yes. Primarily focused on dust extraction for the woodworking market.
Okay.
So
right.
I've seen a lot of new things come down. Safety has been the primary focus, I would say, for the last 10 years, mainly to do with combustible dust. Of course, when you break down wood or any organic material into a dust, it becomes very volatile.
Okay, right.
And so by removing the dust, I mean, our whole purpose is to get the dust out of the workspace, but we do concentrate it in the dust collector. So there's a certain amount of special design considerations you have to do around the dust collector to make sure it's not a potential hazard.
Right. Because of the material itself, right?
Right. And the new regulations now, actually, there's new protocols and documentation required September the 7th. So we have a lot of our customers really focused on creating these risk analysis, which includes kind of a roadmap of how to operate the facility going forward. So it's not necessarily need to have all these things, kind of safety measures in place by September the 7th, but they definitely have to have basically a roadmap of how they're going to do it and to address the different parts of their shop that could be a possible fire or explosion hazard.
So in the world of dust collection or dust extraction, that is on the front burner right now, these regulations?
There are, and unfortunately there's still, we still hear about, still a continuing events of, fires and explosions in the woodworking industry.
Of course, yes.
And so this is really to address that, and that's one of our specialties. So we've had a good long history of that. So
if folks out there watching, if they have a production shop, obviously they're making dust, they have questions about their, what they have to do to line up with any kind of regulations, can a Nederman representative help them kind of navigate that path?
Yes, I mean it's important that we go out, inspect the facility,
Mm-hmm.
we look at what they have, we understand their production processes, and then we'll come back with a number of different recommendations. It may include outside parties, because some of it may be when you get into large facilities, it may require a specialist that does their whole plant.
Sure. Well, let's get into that. So as far as the Nederman array of products, I mean, first of all, and maybe we should really just concentrate on the woodworking industry, because you guys have products that go into multiple industries.
We do.
But in the woodworking industry, what type of products are available through Nederman?
Well, really, it's a whole range of products. So we can start with dust collecting to a single machine, an edge bander, a panel saw, what have you, or a single cell production. So typically, when you're looking at one machine or a couple machines together, we start with what we call our S series, which we call an enclosureless dust collector.
Right.
So you might see those in some of the showrooms around or different wood shops, but that is designed for, as I mentioned, 1 machine, 2 machines, single cell production.
So we have one of those here.
You do?
We have an S series here, and it's great. We just we move it around to whatever machine we're doing the runoff for, and we hook it up. A lot of times when we bring in a machine for a single purpose, we don't want to run permanent pipes to that one location if it's not going to stay there. So we just bring the S series. Great.
You bring the S series in. The S series is designed to be inside. There's a couple different waste discharge options depending on how much dust you're creating.
I like to think of the S series as kind of like the dust collection world's version of a plug and play machine. Right?
It's the closest thing to a plug and play we have. Yes, that is very good. So it can be permanent or you can move it around as your shop moves, your shop changes. You have different machines. So it's a lot of flexibility combined with the dust piping, as you mentioned. Nordfab is one of our sister companies. They make the quick clamp together ductwork.
Okay, so Nordfab actually does the piping, the ductwork. Yeah.
So Nordfab is a Nederman company.
Oh,
so when you buy a system from Nederman, you get the entire system.
Right.
Starting with the dust collector, the duct pipe. We can do the installation. We can do the design, the engineering.
So the collectors and the piping all are coming from the Nederman family.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And now that sometimes smaller shops, that's all they need is an S series because they're just running a CNC. They just need an S series. That's it. Larger shops or medium shops need more of a system. So what does that look like? Do you guys have predefined products, or is it all going to be just dependent on the needs of the company?
I think it's really because every shop, most of them are not purpose built. So there's a certain level of tailoring the solution to their specific production requirements, but it's also for the building itself.
Right.
So any one of these molders here behind us could do 1 to 4 yards on a typical application for a cabinet per hour. So it's important that we get that dust, we extract it from machines. It really improves the product quality. And it also reduces the amount of housekeeping. It just generally makes a better work environment for the employees, and people see gains from that. Every day, employee retention. So there's lots of things that come out of that it's sometimes hard to put a dollar value on.
Sure. So I remember when I was in manufacturing, one of the challenges was dust collection. Right. That was always and probably a lot of people watching. That's a challenge for a lot of folks. And so I was wondering, maybe this morning we could kind of talk just broad level. How does dust collection work? Can you just give us like the 5-minute educational session on what actually happens to make it work, and what can people do in their shops to make it work better?
Right. I would say one is to understand you're buying new machinery, a quantity piece of machinery. Weinig does a great job of putting the specifications for their equipment, so really understanding and make sure they have that right information, and then engage somebody like Nederman. This is our business. This is what we do every day. Bring that information to them. We're going to go through really this list and help them come and basically figure out exactly what they need, and then we're going to take the responsibility for an outcome, not just a specific product, but an outcome of making that into a clean shop.
Right.
But as far as just the functionality of it, it's really, again, it's these 5 pieces of the puzzle, which is, number one is to actually capture it at the machine.
Yep, so, capture the dust.
Right, and then we're going to basically transport it to where we're going to filter it, and primarily we're going to do that outside. Because, again, back to this combustible dust risk, the further we can get that concentrated amount of dust, a large volume of dust that could be a potential fire or an explosion hazard, we can get that far away from the employees and from the production equipment, the better off it's going to be. And then from there, we're filtering it, and we can either return it back to the plant, or we can put it to atmosphere, and that really comes back into in the climate and also a number of other factors that are.
It's very situational what you do with that air.
Is it Denver, Colorado? Is it is it Winnipeg, Manitoba? Is it is it Birmingham, Alabama? It's a completely different.
Absolutely. So Eric, when we're talking about dust collection at a machine, not only are we looking to create a cleaner environment in the machine, but in many times we're actually enhancing the machine's performance.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. So it's what here at Nederman we talk about protecting the people first, as Rob mentioned,
Right.
and then the product, and obviously the environment. So when you talk about your product, when you're buying a piece of woodworking equipment, you're making an investment. So
Right.
a lot of the newer things have panels and dashboards and interactive computers on them that you don't want dusty.
Right. Sure.
So you want to make sure that you have the adequate dust collection there, so it's actually protecting the product that you just made the investment in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing any kind of finishing or anything like that, you don't want the dust in the air to get on the finished product.
Makes sense.
And then kind of the people aspect, obviously we talked about a little bit, the explosion protection.
Yep.
But just a dusty shop.
Dusty shop.
How many people want to go in
It's
a
the
dusty
worst.
shop? How many? Everybody wears masks now. How many people actually want
Right.
to wear masks when you don't
Yeah.
have to?
Yeah.
So that helps with employee retention,
Absolutely.
hire new people, and just a better overall working environment to kind of do the clean shop.
Yeah, the clean shop is a better shop. 100%, hands down. Anybody who works in a shop who's watching, and I've been in my fair share of dusty, dirty shops, and it's not because it's just sat dormant. It's because there's just not
Adequate dust collection.
That's exactly right. And so a clean shop is just a better shop to work in.
Like you said, we've all been in clean and dirty shops, and it's just the overall kind of feel of the shop, the employee morale is just better, and it's better for the products and your investment.
Absolutely. All right, so the main thing that I want us to talk about today is what you guys look at as customer onboarding.
Sure.
So when a shop makes the decision, okay, we want to go with Nederman as far as providing dust collection, what does that onboarding process look like? Because one thing that I think a lot of folks out there might be a little, nervous about is, well, dust collection is this huge expense, but it's also, is it going to take down my production for a month? Or, what's going to happen? Are they going to be hanging pipes for X amount of time? And how long is the drawings going to take? And, how much engineering am I responsible for? So I was wondering if we could just kind of take some time and go through and kind of just tell everybody, what does that process look like at Nederman?
So we'll start with the S-Series we talked about is kind of the single production shop. So that's a relatively easy process. You figure out what machines you want, what the OEM recommended CFM is.
Okay,
You either sell them in S-Series or you do a little bit of duct work to those. So I think what we're really going to focus on is centralized system.
A centralized system. Right.
Outdoors.
Yep.
So there's some upfront work and figure out kind of the CFMs you need, where is it going to go, how's it going to look, or you return the air, as Rob mentioned. So once we have all that situated, we're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So then we turn it over to kind of our project management team.
Okay.
So our project management team is supported by and headed up by the project manager. He is supported by project engineer, electrical controls group, an aftermarket sales and service group, and service technicians.
All those people are a team.
All those
dedicated to that project.
Is assigned to that project, yes.
Okay.
So when you sign up with us as Nederman, you're going to get the support of that entire team. You'll have a quarterback being the project manager, and then he'll be supported by the linemen, the wide receivers, the football analogy.
So even on that team, you have an aftermarket guy on that team.
We do.
I think that's a big plus, because that's something that a lot of folks, they don't think of right off the bat, but then a month down the road, they're like, oh, who do I talk to for those parts? And
they end up being the caretaker for the system. So they're the person, they show up the site, they train the people how to use the equipment, and then they test and certify the equipment, which again back to the safety kind of aspect of it. And then we have a whole team, but they tend to be the person that they call.
Sure.
Like, hey, you were here, you saw my shop, you know what I have. Can you help me with this specific question? So
this is Joe from Colorado. You were here 2.5 years ago.
they do that. Yes, they still do that.
Yeah, I found your card.
Yes.
So
in the drawer.
They kind of build that as they're doing the training and kind of the actual onboarding. Once they develop that personal relationship.
Right.
So we do, as Rob mentioned, we do have a general aftermarket parts division, but it usually starts with the service tech that's there.
Yep.
So this team is assembled, and then what happens?
And so then we start kind of the engineering and drawing phases.
Okay.
So anything that we're going to send you drawings first for approval.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we call them general arrangement drawings. You start with the collector. This is how it's going to look. This is how it's going to be oriented on the building.
Right.
These are the features and kind of a checklist that you sign off on, and then that goes into production.
Now, for a smaller project, we had to do one. We worked together.
We did.
To do a drawing just for a few machines. was for a trade fair actually, and I have to say, and maybe you can attest to this, is that this isn't anything to be nervous about,
No.
right? I mean, this is a fairly easy process. I mean, if you don't have to be an expert at CAD to get these guys drawings, right?
No. So typically, if they want them in CAD, if they want them in some kind of 3D, we can do that. But typically, it's a PDF version.
Okay.
It's
All right,
PDF. Yeah. It's 2D drawings. It has the dust pipe has dimensions. It has sizes on them.
You don't have to go take a class to understand the drawings.
You do not.
No.
Okay.
And it's more so we're looking for the ductwork is routing. Is this routing going to interfere with racking? Is it going to interfere with any cranes? In the collector, okay, this is how we want it to sit, perpendicular, parallel. So we on most large projects like that, we take care of the installation as well.
Okay.
So it's more so kind of just orientation, routing of the ductwork. So once everybody signs off on those drawings, and sometimes we had a couple revisions even for a small trade show, and so that's just part of the process that everybody understands is okay. Well, we changed our mind, we want it here, or we think now it's seen on paper it works better this way. So it's a little bit of a process, but it's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing really they need to do other than give us comments and make approvals.
Fairly easy. So once everyone signs off on the engineered drawings, then what?
Then it goes into production. So everything is, we like to say, it's proven solutions customized based on the customer's specific requirements. So so everything is most likely built to order.
All right. Yep.
So after everything is approved, it goes into production. Typical lead time is somewhere between 10 and 12 weeks.
Sure.
Typical kind of for this industry and machinery. And then as it gets built.
When you say it gets built, are we talking? Is it getting built in Europe? Is it getting assembled in Charlotte? Is it just up to the situation?
It'll come from our Charlotte facility.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be built and assembled and put together in the Charlotte facility. Most likely ship in the dust collector itself ships in typically 2 pieces.
Okay, right.
Top filter section and a bottom hopper on flatbeds.
Exactly.
You might see them go down the road on a flatbed. But yeah, so when I say build, everything's coming out of Charlotte.
Okay.
Being assembled and put together there, and then it'll arrive on site.
And then what? Now you guys normally do the install, right?
I would say.
Or am I missing a step? Is there anything besides the building?
In some cases, they may have to go through a review. The fire marshal or the building department in the municipality may have to look at it, and so that's really a project manager. We have one person as the key contact, so the customer has that person. There's lots of activities going on behind it, and he may need lots of technical information. He may need a little technical information, but we have all that support. Controls, and that's really in my department. We have 2 control engineers, we have solutions engineers, we have technical experts, safety experts that really support that project manager.
Okay.
Because there will be some electrical, so we'll provide all the electrical field wiring diagrams and information with that. Some of the background safety features.
So install. So you guys do installs, you source installs out, a little bit of both. How does that work?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
We kind of the wide range. I would say probably 75 or 80% of the large central systems. We're doing all, if not a part of it. Typically, if the customer wants to do kind of his own install, we kind of break it down where they do the duct pipe inside.
Okay.
So hanging the duct pipe is a little less complicated than putting together a collector.
Sure, absolutely.
So we work. We have an install base. We have a dealer base around the country that helps with the install, and it's kind of a case by case basis where it's located, who's involved. But
now, all that piping you were saying comes from Norfab, so that's getting shipped with the collector,
correct?
And that's all already spec'd out to the drawing. So
that approval drawing will have sizes on it. So my main trunk line is going to be X. I'm going to have a branch
be
and drop,
here.
and here's where it's going to go on the floor.
So when they get it, it's in pieces, but it actually gets put up, installed to what that drawing is.
It's part of the puzzle. You have all the
part of the puzzle, right?
It's the erector set. Yes, you have all the pieces in the drawing, and that's why the bigger systems, because of the size of the pipes, it's really. We really like to do the installation, right? We'd like to have we like to have white glove service, especially for those significant size systems.
Now, one thing I think would be something to mention is that as it comes to the piping, because there are drawings first, and there's many people involved looking at this. There's many sets of eyes looking at that drawing, so you guys aren't having to ship just a whole bunch of random extra pipe just in case you have to, there's there's this elbow that you didn't take into account or something like that. I mean, it's all pretty much you have what you need when you get on site.
It is. It is. And we've done this enough to know that how things look on the drawing may not be the reality. So
right.
we look at it
Sure.
almost like a package. So if we have a feeling that there might be some changes or there's a little bit of uncertainty there, like we'll build in a little fudge factor, if you will.
Right. Sure.
But the good thing is these large systems, stuff does change where it's pretty easy to adapt.
The flexibility of the NordTap quick fit piping, very easily to
Is that right?
cut the length, very easy to reconfigure. So really, you need to be within 3 to 5 feet.
Oh wow!
So
that's a pretty
so
big
we're
tolerance.
used to,
So that's pretty good.
We're not dealing in the we're not dealing what you're dealing on the production and the
right.
So
but if you get on site and there's a column that was never accounted for,
well, no, and I think
that's
really that's the reason we need that drawing, that approval, because the customer knows their building, they know their how they want things to run.
Sure. So then install happens. Now install, depending on the size, I guess, of the system, is going to take say how long?
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. Okay.
Depending on the size of the system.
All right.
So one of your questions, I think, is some of the concerns of people is what is that going to do to my production?
Yeah, what does that do to production?
Well, and it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. This is a new building, and obviously they're not up and running yet.
Right,
It's
sure.
easy. But if they're adding machines or if they're moving from, I have 3 S-Series, now I want to go centralized.
Yes, right.
So our installer base is very good about working around production.
Okay.
Whether it's hanging main trunk lines and staying out of people's way, whether it's working at night, whether it's getting this
off hours on a production floor, always a plus. Yeah, sure.
always an option.
Yep.
A lot of times what we've done is another option is if we can get as far as we can during normal business hours, and then if they shut down on Thursday, give us Friday, Saturday, Sunday
Sure.
to come kind of ease the burden of not having production, or maybe they're working 410s.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of flexibility, and like I said, we've done this a lot. So
right.
So whoever shop is, I can't be down. You're not the first one we've dealt with. We've kind of worked around. So we're very flexible. They can give us a little flexibility in terms of, at some point, the machines are going to have to be switched over.
Right. So at some point after install, the machines are switched over, or the machines are installed.
Correct.
Depending on the situation. And I think that's so out of this entire onboarding process, that period is probably the most important, right? Is when everything actually starts working with the new system. And so now, are you guys? How do you monitor that? Is there a time period where you're actually actively monitoring to make sure that the extraction is working as spec'd?
Yeah, I would say now we have our new Insight cloud-based monitoring.
Okay.
So actually, we have engineers that can actually monitor. We can download the data in real time, so you're seeing it. They can sit there and watch it, even with the technician on site, to see was it in the range that we need.
Right.
And in the beginning, there's a certain amount of key performance parameters that we set, so we know where the control limits are of the system, and we can give early warning to the customer as well as to our service team of is it green or is it yellow, and then the worst case it's red, but hopefully between the yellow section there you have some kind of proactive steps that you can take to address that.
Sure.
More predictive maintenance and preventative and reactionary.
Right, exactly. So you could have a Nederman technician on site monitoring, and you could have a support team member somewhere else, anywhere in the world, also monitoring the same system.
The power of trending and the general how you handle the data, the visualization, to me is something that I know everybody's really doing, but now people are starting to really understand how does that affect their business, what to do with it.
They're embracing the benefits.
Yes.
Same thing with machine monitoring.
Sure.
I mean, it's been there for a few years, but now people are starting to say, okay, well, let me harness it and do something with it.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So so the collector, the system, it's up and running. It's to spec. The machines are being serviced by that. How involved is Nederman then going in the future?
So we are. How do I want to word this? We are involved, but one of the benefits of Nederman is kind of the life of the system.
Right. Okay.
So in the woodworking industry, you have filter bags, the actual filters.
Right.
So routinely, we get somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 hours of run times. Could be more depending on kind of how you take care and maintain the system. So you're not calling us every quarter, every year to change the bags.
Okay. Right.
So we are involved, but it's not something we ask that you maintain and check the system at least once a year.
Okay. Yeah.
Our service department does PM programs, so if you want to concentrate on making your products and want us to come out and check it once a year, once a quarter, we can do that. So we are involved as much as we need to be.
Sure.
So it's not something where you're going to be calling us every week or something like that, but we are always there. We can set up annual inspections, whatever have you.
Christian, what I'd add to it is, people, they continue to find new ways to market. They have new products, so they redo their equipment. They buy new equipment. So we're there for them, just like you're saying. Hey, we changed out this piece of equipment for that one. We have all the technical specs, so we'll help them through that process. Maybe it has a higher requirement. Maybe they move the machinery around.
Right.
So we are actively, our engineers, they call and say, hey, had one last week. Somebody putting in a new sander. How does that affect our system? How can we help? So we give them the benefit of that ongoing service, the ongoing technical support to make sure the system, because that is one of the worst cases of dust collection. People just kind of start ad-libbing a little bit, and then the system doesn't work. And
kind of like piecemealing stuff together, right? So I think that's also something to note is that when I know it kind of seems like it's common sense, but when you add new equipment, or even when you're thinking about adding new equipment, get on the phone with your dust collection, and just figure out, okay, maybe the system can already handle it, maybe it can't, maybe we have to rework some things, but know that is kind of a necessity with new equipment.
Right. In most cases, it really just changes in the pipe system, how the pipe basically, branches together. And there are some cases people start to do really new and different things. You have to make a change. Most of our systems are expandable, so you're not having to buy a new system.
Nice. Right.
So you're just actually expanding the existing system. So it's a process, but to me, is if you start early enough, you fit in with the whole new equipment installation, purchase and installation of that new equipment.
Right. One of the upfront things and questions when we're speccing out a system is kind of what is your growth plans? Is there something on the wish list? Is that 6 months, 12 months, a year and a half? And then if in most cases when we're designing a system, we do build in a little bit of growth capacity anyway.
Great, yeah.
So if somebody says, hey, I just bought this piece of equipment, well, great, it's planned for. If you buy 2 more pieces, then we need to talk about some changes.
That's it. Right, exactly. Yep. So, all right, and then going forward, basically, Nederman becomes a partner and is that resource for expansion in the future. So that's a good picture of the entirety of the process, I guess you would say, of getting dust collection. Going back to the products real quick, because I can't hammer home this enough, because I've seen different shops and different scenarios. Everybody out there that's watching this has something a little bit different. I get it. It really has to do with the shop. A lot of shops are not, in construction when they're talking to their dust collection supplier. They already have a building. They already have machines, and now you're having to kind of work around it and make sure production's keeping up and all that good stuff. So you guys have an array of solutions from the S series.
From the S series to
all the way to a centralized solution.
We call it an NF series, which is a centralized. We have 3 different sizes and styles of that. So it's anywhere from starting shop, where hey, I'm opening my doors, to I've been here 50 plus years and I want to expand or add another building or do something different. So like Nederman's been around for over 75 years. So there's not a lot we haven't seen. I'm not going to say
we see something new, but it's usually the very, very small percentage of the time.
Yeah, we've seen things in dust collection. 75 years will do that.
We've seen a lot of unique things. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But so it's no 2 shops are always the same. So there's always a way to work with the shop, and whether you're renting the building, whether you're limited on space, there's always something we can do to help with dust collection.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thanks for joining me today. I enjoyed our talk. This has been great. I hope everybody out there maybe learned something. We'll drop a link in the video description to Nederman's website and some contact forms if you want to get in touch with them. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right.